Developing right now on Morning News Now, fallout at the Fed over the Justice Department's criminal investigation into the central bank and its chair, Jerome Powell. This morning, the White House denying President Trump played any part in the probe, despite a public feud with Powell. While on Capitol Hill, lawmakers from both parties voicing concerns about its impacts on the Fed's independence.
The president's made it quite clear is Jerome Powell is bad at his job. As for whether or not Jerome Powell is a criminal, that's an answer the Department of Justice is going to have to find out.
I know Chairman Powell very well. I will be stunned. I will be shocked if he has done anything wrong.
More on the investigation, the reaction, and what happens next. Plus, clashes and consequences. President Trump announcing steep new tariffs on countries doing business with Iran as a violent crackdown on anti-government protests grows deadlier by the day. Here in the States, another day of protests following that deadly ICE shooting in Minneapolis. Now the state of Minnesota suing the federal government to stop immigration raids. We will bring you the latest. Developing this morning, danger out west, where a third person has died following a series of avalanches. Also, we're tracking unseasonably warm temperatures, with some areas on track to break records today. Angie is here with your forecast. And social struggles. More Gen Zers say they get stressed out by face-to-face conversations. We will share ways to break free from the anxiety. Skill you should get comfortable with.
Yes, it's a very important skill, even as we get addicted to our phones. Good to have that IRL. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Thank you very much for starting your day with us. We are going to begin this morning with the fallout over the Trump Justice Department's criminal investigation of Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell.
More than a dozen former Fed chairs, Treasury secretaries, and leading economists signed a letter yesterday in support of the central bank's leader. Powell is facing a probe over testimony he gave before Congress last year on a multi-billion-dollar renovation of the Fed headquarters. Some Republicans are now slamming the inquiry, saying it could undermine the central bank's independence, while others in the party want to see the investigation play out. Powell maintains the whole thing is a politically motivated effort to pressure him into cutting interest rates, something the president has long sought over the past year. NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor is standing by with reaction on Capitol Hill. First, though, let's go to NBC's Alice Barr. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Worth noting, the Federal Reserve did lower interest rates 3 times in 2025, a move Chairman Powell says was motivated by economic conditions, not pressure from President Trump, who wants deeper rate cuts. And Powell argues that pressure is what's now behind the criminal probe. This morning, political pushback over the Justice Department's investigation into Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, with a series of Republican lawmakers voicing concerns.
I know Chairman Powell very well. I will be stunned. I will be shocked if he has done anything wrong.
Chairman Powell himself announced the Federal Reserve had been subpoenaed, he says tied to his congressional testimony in June about costly pre-planned renovations to the Fed's headquarters in D.C. that shot from $1.9 to $2.5 billion. Though not taxpayer money, President Trump has slammed the overruns, while also repeatedly pressuring Powell to lower interest rates.
Well, I'd love him to lower interest rates.
The chairman calling that pressure the true source of the criminal inquiry with the Federal Reserve.
Setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president.
Now, in a joint statement, all living former Fed chairs and several Treasury secretaries warning the DOJ inquiry threatens the Federal Reserve's independence and risks hurting the U.S. economy and inflation. The White House denies President Trump sought the investigation, and the president told NBC News he would not try to pressure Powell that way, adding, quote, "What should pressure him is the fact that rates are far too high. That's the only pressure he's got." The U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., Jeanine Pirro, posted that her office contacted the Federal Reserve to discuss renovation cost overruns and Powell's testimony, but were ignored, necessitating the use of the legal process. And NBC News has some new reporting that, according to a person familiar with the matter, the Federal Reserve did receive 2 emails from Pirro's office in December around the holidays, and that the emails did not have a sense of urgency and did not mention anything about a criminal investigation. Another source tells NBC News Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent voiced frustration with the investigation to President Trump and believes it's a distraction. Joe and Savannah.
All right, Alice, thank you.
For more, let's bring in NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor. Sahil, good morning. So how much leverage do Republicans have here, and how animated are they about this? Does their criticism of this investigation, could it have a real impact?
Yeah, it absolutely could have a real impact. Republicans are voicing pushback against this administration, including some who rarely criticize the president. Yes, they may want the Fed to lower interest rates, but they certainly don't think the Fed chair is a criminal. They do believe in the independence of the Fed as a pillar of the economic system. In part, by the way, many of them are wealthy. They do care about their own their own finances as well. Now, the senators have several tools at their disposal, one of which is their votes on future Fed board nominees. Take a listen to what Senator Tom Tillis, a Republican who sits on the banking committee, said about that.
He has publicly said he wasn't aware of this. So
should they drop the investigation?
I'm not going to get into that. What I'm going to do is drop any consideration for any board confirmation until it's done.
Now, Tillis sits on the banking committee, which has a breakdown of 13 Republicans to 11 Democrats. So he alone, if he refuses to vote for any Fed nominees, could stall every one of them from being reported out of the banking committee. The other tool is investigations. Take a look at Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska. She says, quote, if the DOJ believes an investigation into Chair Powell is warranted based on project cost overruns, which are not unusual, then Congress needs to investigate the Department of Justice, she says, end quote. Now, Powell's term, interestingly, is up in May. So the question of what happens next is really important, because the president is going to have to send another Fed chair nominee to the Senate. And if this dispute continues, then President Trump might have a hard time confirming a nominee out of the Senate.
Even with Republicans in control there. All right, Sahil, let's get to some other news from Capitol Hill. Yesterday, Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona actually filed a lawsuit against Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Hegseth is trying to censure the retired Navy captain, lower his retirement rank following that controversial video featuring Kelly and some other Democrats. In that video, they called on U.S. service members to, quote, refuse illegal orders. What is Senator Kelly arguing in this lawsuit?
Yeah, this is all in response to Secretary Hegseth accusing Senator Mark Kelly of seditious statements by encouraging members of the military not to follow illegal orders. Now, Kelly is pushing back on this very strongly, saying that in a letter, he says, quote, it appears that never in our nation's history has the executive branch imposed military sanctions on a member of Congress for engaging in disfavored political speech. That's what he says this is all about. And he argues in this lawsuit that allowing the government to punish a senator through military proceedings for his political speech erodes the separation of powers and gives the executive a power over legislators that does not exist in the Constitution. Take a look at what Senator Kelly had to say about this.
Pete Hegseth's unconstitutional crusade against me sends a chilling message to every retired member of the military. If you speak out and say something that the President and Secretary of Defense doesn't like, you will be censured.
Of course, Kelly is a prominent national figure, maybe even a future presidential candidate, and this episode has certainly raised his profile politically, guys.
Sahil, one more thing we want to ask you about. Unfortunately, it is back. It is time to talk about the potential of another government shutdown. Lawmakers are racing against the clock here to try to avoid one. They only have until January 30th to get some remaining appropriations bills through Congress. Yesterday, they made progress on funding for a couple of major government agencies, but what is the latest here?
Yeah, the deadline on that is coming up at the end of this month. Here's the situation at this moment. Only 3 out of the 12 appropriations bills have been passed through Congress. Senate moved yesterday on a vote of 80-13, an overwhelming vote to move 2 more appropriations bills. That still leaves a lot of work to do. So realistically, the goal here is for the House and the Senate to be able to agree on several more appropriations bills. They're not going to get all the other 9 done. Certainly DHS funding, which has been tied up over recent disputes over ICE in the wake of their actions Republicans in Minneapolis. Democrats are pushing back, demanding restraints that Republicans don't want to impose. That's just one example of the disputes they're going to have to resolve. At the end of the day, we're almost certainly going to have some sort of continuing resolution for at least parts of the government, and that fight has yet to play out, guys.
All right, Sahil, thanks as always.
World News Now, activists say the death toll from the Iranian government's crackdown on protests has risen to more than 600.
That is according to the U.S.-based human rights activist news agency. It also says that more than 10,000 people have been arrested. The Iranian government has not released its own numbers, and an internet blackout has made it difficult to verify reports from inside the country. It comes as President Trump announced on social media yesterday a tariff on 25% on imports from countries doing business with Iran. He offered no details on how this would be carried out.
NBC News correspondent Danielle Hamamdjian joins us now with the very latest. So, Danielle, we know the president has been weighing options to respond to this crackdown. Now he's floating tariffs. What's the reaction from China, which is Iran's largest trading partner? And do we know what else the president could be considering here?
Yeah, good morning, guys. The first thing to know when it comes to those tariffs is that Iran is a major exporter of oil and China is the main buyer of that oil. Turkey, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates and India are among its other top trading partners. The announcement was quickly criticized by China this morning in a regular news briefing in Beijing. A foreign ministry spokesperson repeated China's position that there are no winners in a tariff war, saying China will, quote, firmly safeguard its legitimate rights and interests. Very diplomatic language there, but to put it bluntly, could this trigger retaliation from China? It is certainly possible. Now, when it comes to those other measures being considered by the U.S. president, he said the military is looking at some very strong options. Take a listen to the White House press secretary on this very issue just yesterday.
Diplomacy is always the first option for the president. He's told all of you last night that what you're hearing publicly from the Iranian regime is quite differently from the messages the administration is receiving privately. And I think the president has an interest in exploring those messages. However, with that said, the president has shown he's unafraid to use military options if and when he deems necessary.
And worth noting some particularly strong words from the German chancellor this morning, Friedrich Merz, saying he believes we are now seeing the final days and weeks of the Iranian regime. Guys?
Wow. Danielle, let's also talk about what we are seeing on the ground. We mentioned that it's difficult because of that internet blackout, but this is disturbing here for our viewers. NBC News has obtained a video showing rows of body bags at an Iranian morgue. Tell us what else we've been able to learn through this footage, the little bits that we're getting. What's happening?
Yeah, NBC was able to geolocate the video to a forensic medical center just outside the capital of Tehran. It shows dozens of body bags in black bags spread out on the ground in the open air. People are walking through the area. They can be heard wailing and crying. We're constantly working on verifying images that have filtered out. Some of those images show body bags opened for identification. In many cases, you see the bloodied limbs or faces of men in many cases. It's important to remind people, just as you said here, just how hard it is to A, get information out of Iran, B, confirm that information because the blackout is still in place. It's been more than 100 hours now. However, there is now limited telephone service in place. We've heard from NBC colleagues that some of their acquaintances have managed to hear from family members. So hopefully more information will start trickling out.
And Danielle, what we can see is Iranian state TV broadcasting these large pro-government rallies happening around the country yesterday. Tell us about that, what we are hearing, at least publicly, from Iran's leadership. I mean, do they think they can weather this latest challenge?
Well, I'll put it this way. One U.S. official with direct knowledge of events has told NBC News that protests have now spread to every Iranian province, that the crowds remain huge, and that the government appears to be on its heels. Now, some context here. There is also no clear leadership among the protesters, who are fragmented. They don't all speak with one voice. Something worth flagging, an Iranian parliamentarian this morning said the government will face even bigger protests unless they start addressing people's grievances. You guys, back to you.
All right, Danielle, thank you so much.
Well, the state of Minnesota is pushing back in court against the Trump administration's immigration crackdown efforts. City and state officials filed a federal lawsuit against multiple top Trump officials on Monday, claiming that the mass deployment of immigration agents to the state was unconstitutional. This comes as violent clashes continue between immigration officers and protesters across Minneapolis. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa is on the ground there with more on this. Maggie, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Protests definitely escalating here in Minneapolis. Case in point, this chaotic scene in the middle of a neighborhood yesterday. We saw pepper spray, tear gas, flashbangs, all of it, as federal officers tried to disperse neighbors and protesters who had just swarmed within minutes. Witnesses told us it started when those officers rear-ended a car. And this morning, the driver, Christian Molina, speaking out to NBC News, saying those officers had been following him and rear-ended him, then asked if he was in the country legally. The father of four, who says he's a U.S. citizen, telling us he was never arrested, never detained, but he was grateful for his neighbors coming out. We are out to DHS for a response to Molina's account, and so far we haven't heard back. Meanwhile, here in Minneapolis, the city and state now suing the Trump administration over this influx of officers, saying it's, quote, spreading terror and chaos, and of course highlighting last week's fatal shooting of Renee Good. This morning, the White House is firing back, calling that lawsuit a pathetic stunt and touting arrests made by federal officers here on the ground of undocumented residents, what they say, some with violent criminal records, a.k.a. all signs point to this conflict not going anywhere. Back to you.
Maggie, thank you.
The Supreme Court is set to hear oral arguments today over a host of state laws that ban transgender athletes from taking part in women's and girls' sports.
Two athletes, one from Idaho and the other from West Virginia, argued that the laws violate their civil rights by discriminating against them based on gender. Now, both states have defended their laws, saying Congress intended to allow divisions in sports based on sex assigned at birth, not personal gender identity. Both athletes won lower court injunctions that allowed them to continue to compete.
For more on this, we're joined now by NBC News senior Supreme Court reporter Lawrence Hurley. Lawrence, good to have you with us. So the justices are going to have to decide whether these state bans violate Title IX of the Civil Rights Act and then also the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Walk us through it here. What are the biggest issues that are at stake here?
Yeah, I mean, this is an issue, as I'm sure you're aware, that's been kind of trickling up for a while now. And it seemed at one point that the momentum was in favor of transgender rights in general. But obviously, with recent political changes and the election of President Donald Trump, who's very outspoken against transgender rights, it started to turn in the opposite direction. And of course, you have a Supreme Court that has a 6-3 conservative majority that just last year upheld state bans on gender-affirming care for transgender teens, which is not a good omen for the transgender athletes going into this case. But on the other hand, as you mentioned, this involves Title IX that bans discrimination in education. And the Supreme Court in a 2020 case involving Title VII, which is the federal law that bans discrimination in employment, actually ruled in favor of transgender rights by saying that that law does cover both gender identity and sexual orientation. So going into this case, the big question is which of those cases kind of looms largest for the conservative majority? Will any of the conservative justices who were in the majority in that 2020 ruling feel the same way about Title IX as they did about Title VII? Or will it be more like the gender-affirming care case? So that's going to be what we'll be looking at in the oral arguments today.
Lawrence, the American Civil Liberties Union is one of the organizations representing the student athletes. What are their key arguments?
Yeah, so they're basically saying that this is obviously, for them, a simple case of discrimination, right? That this is, these are women and girls who identify as women and girls who want to participate in girls or women's sports. They're not talking about, you know, the Olympics or the NCAA. Those organizations are already kind of shifting their rules against transgender athletes. They're talking more about high school and kind of one of the students here is a college student, although she didn't actually make the teams that she sought to get into. And then there are issues also bubbling beneath about whether transgender girls actually have the kind of physical advantages that the states claim they do, especially when they've transitioned extremely young, as one of the plaintiffs in this case did, where she never actually went through male puberty at all. And they say there are some factual issues that suggest that the state couldn't or shouldn't be able to ban her from participating in high school sports.
Lawrence, there's potentially a lot at stake here. I mean, right now, more than 24 states have laws on the books that limit or ban transgender women from competing in women's sports. It's also, we know, been a big part of President Trump's policy. He's used executive orders and other Department of Education enforcement efforts to just try and restrict transgender participation in school sports. So how are those states that have these bans on the books in the Trump administration, what's their argument here?
Yeah, I mean, the stakes are pretty big here, right? Because although you could look at it as just being about sports, it's actually, if the court touches upon this Title IX question and rules one way or another, it could have a big impact on all kinds of other issues that have been coming up as well, including this ongoing debate about restroom access, which we've seen in the news as well in recent years. So, and the states, they're just arguing that this is not a form of discrimination at all. They're saying, it's legal to separate genders in sports, and transgender women have this what they perceive to be a advantage, physical advantage from their gender assigned at birth. So that's the kind of what they're going to be pushing in this case. And one of the issues is whether the justices will see that as more like the gender affirming care case, or whether they see it more as the employment discrimination case.
All right, Lawrence, more to come later today. Thank you.
Well, yet another avalanche turned deadly out west, claiming the life of a third person in just the last week. Authorities say a snowmobiler was killed after being buried under 2 feet of snow when an avalanche was triggered on the slopes in Wyoming over the weekend. It comes after 2 other snowmobilers were killed in Washington state late last week. New videos show several of these harrowing scenes caught on camera. Now, the rising threat of avalanches, like the one that we're showing you in Colorado, has been fed by a series of powerful snowstorms. The National Avalanche Center advises snow enthusiasts to check weather and avalanche forecasts before heading out.
Speaking of weather, we're expecting another day of some unusually warm temperatures from coast to coast this morning.
Angie Lassman's here with your Morning News Now weather. Hi, Angie. Good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning. And those avalanches, of course, can be exacerbated by these warmer than normal temperatures. And you can see across the west and really extending all the way out to the east, we've got temperatures running warmer than they should be for this time of year. We're almost 30 degrees above that mark of where we typically see temperatures for this period of the year. 66 degrees is what you're going to get in St. Louis today. We've got 50s in Chicago, mid-50s across parts of the northern plains. Minneapolis checks in later today at 43 degrees. And even as far south as Dallas and Little Rock, we're hanging out into those mid to upper 60s. By tomorrow, we'll start to see some of us kind of get back to more typical kinds of temperatures. So Sioux Falls, Kansas City, Oklahoma City, right where you should be. Chicago around there as well with 30 degrees. Still hanging on to that warmth across parts of the Northeast and New England. 49 degrees for your high in New York City tomorrow. And then here comes those chilly temperatures. We'll start to see them really drop and the bottom drop out really as we get into the end of the work week. So Detroit on Thursday, 22 degrees is going to be your high temperature, a big swing from where we are now to then. And that Arctic air will settle in for Minneapolis as well. We go from the mid 30s on Thursday to just 10 degrees for your high on Saturday, needing all those layers yet again. And even New York City kind of flirting with those 30s for the end of the work week, but jumping back up to those 40s by the time Saturday rolls around. Now, across the south, temperatures are actually cooler than normal, so we are getting a bit of a chill for our friends in Atlanta. We know this means that we're bundling up. 33 degrees in Atlanta. We've got those low 30s across parts of the panhandle of Florida, so we're running below average. So a kind of a different kind of setup. The middle of the country, quite warm. The southeast on the cool side of things, and even tomorrow afternoon, we'll still see that southern chill kind of settling in with 50s and 60s. And we're gearing up for our next winter storm. You can see not a whole lot of winter alerts out there, but we do have a couple of some snow showers and some rain in the picture, and that's mainly moving across the Great Lakes right now. But look what happens here as we get through the day today and even into tomorrow. We'll start to see some of that that low pressure kind of dip out of Canada and bring us the potential for some rain and some snow, especially for tomorrow. That heavy lake effect snow will develop, and then we could see some of that across the Appalachians, and we'll be keeping a close eye on it as we get through the middle of our upcoming work week.
I love that one map. It's like Rhinelander. That's it. Just fun little city in Wisconsin.
Don't worry, there will be more winter alerts.
There's more coming. All right, thanks, Ann.
Thank you.
Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, a powerhouse partnership that's sending shockwaves through Silicon Valley and beyond. What we're learning about an AI deal between Apple and Google.
Up first, though, after the break, diplomacy and controversy overseas, how Canada and China are working to rebuild ties amid growing tension with the U.S. We will be right back. We're back now with an upcoming overseas trip by Canada's Prime Minister that's raising eyebrows here in the U.S. Prime Minister Mark Carney will soon become the first Canadian leader to visit China since 2017 in an attempt to rebuild their political and economic relationship.
He's set to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping, hoping to turn the page on their past diplomatic disputes. Right now, both nations are facing tense trade relations with the U.S.
NBC News International correspondent Janice Mackey-Freyer joins us live from Beijing with more on this. Janice, good morning. So Prime Minister Carney is scheduled to leave for Beijing today. Can you give us some more context on why a Canadian leader hasn't been in China for so long?
Well, this is the first trip by a Canadian leader in almost a decade aimed at breaking the ice on disputes that have divided them over the past decade, including the detention of 2 Canadians here after the arrest in Vancouver of a Huawei executive on a U.S. warrant. There's also been trade spats over EVs, canola, and steel, as well as Canadian accusations of election interference by China and increasing Chinese presence in the Arctic. But it shows how the world has changed with President Trump's trade policies. Canada's relations with China have been arguably the worst of any Western country. But remember that Canada and China are the only 2 countries that have so far pushed back on President Trump and his trade policies. So in that sense, they find themselves in the same corner.
So, Janice, what are some of the challenges for Prime Minister Carney now when he meets with President Xi?
Well, Canadian foreign policy toward China has been hawkish traditionally, but it's shifted with the tariff war and these threats of annexing Canada to become the 51st state. There was a poll recently in Canada showing this change in sentiment toward China, with 54% of Canadians favoring closer ties. And those are numbers that pollsters are saying are being driven mostly by sentiment toward President Trump. Still, Carney will have to navigate all of the political tripwires here. There's been the U.S. raid on Venezuela, President Trump yearning to buy Greenland to keep Russia and China from getting it. Critics have said that behind closed doors, Carney needs to maintain Canada's positions on human rights and Taiwan, even as he seeks to have a bettering of relations and all of the trade deals that are likely to come with it.
Janice, Canada and China are now both having this back and forth with the U.S. over President Trump's tariffs. With that backdrop, what are the economic stakes for Canada on this trip to China?
Carney is trying to diversify trade away from the U.S., which until recently bought 76% of Canada's exports. So for Canada, this is a complete rethink of a way of life, of the fundamental ways that U.S. trade policy has been upended with this current administration. But there are trade troubles here, too. Like when Canada joined the U.S. in putting tariffs on Chinese EVs, this was something done under the previous Trudeau government. Beijing put very heavy tariffs on Canadian canola products and effectively shut producers out of the market. Seafood and pork exports have suffered too. Now both sides seem to be coming into this visit with some leverage. Canada has energy and commodities to sell into this huge Chinese market, and Carney brings some diplomatic credibility for Xi Jinping. State media here is already talking about the 2 countries turning a page, so expect stability to be a buzzword here in Beijing as the visit gets underway, and it will be very closely watched. Joe and Savannah.
All right, Janice, thank you very much.
We are following developing news out of Ukraine, where Russia launched a deadly overnight strike on a key city.
NBC News International correspondent Claudia Labonga joins us now from Rome to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Claudia, good morning.
Joseph, good morning. Well, that's right. Officials in Ukraine said that a Russian drone attack on the city of Kharkiv has killed at least 4 people and injured 6 more. Now, this latest deadly attack came hours after Washington accused Moscow of a dangerous and inexplicable escalation of the war. In the meantime, authorities say heating in 90% of apartment buildings in the capital, Kyiv, has been restored more than 3 days after Russia struck energy targets across the country. But hundreds of apartment blocks are still in the cold as night temperatures reached 5 degrees. Let's go to the Philippines now, where the death toll in a collapsed landfill has risen to 11. Officials say so far rescuers pulled 12 injured people out of the debris and that more than 20 people still remain missing. The landfill collapsed last week in Cebu City in the central Philippines, while more than 100 workers were on site. The incident has sparked calls for investigation into what caused the collapse. And let's end this tour of the world back here, or near here, at the Vatican, where Monday Pope Leo met Maria Corina Machado, the Venezuelan opposition leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner. After the meeting, Machado said she asked the Pope to intercede for all Venezuelans who she says remain kidnapped and disappeared. The Vatican did not give out details of the meeting, but after Maduro was captured by U.S. forces, Leo has called for Venezuela to remain an independent country and has decried the use of military force as a means of achieving diplomatic goals. Back to you guys.
All right, Claudia Lubanga, thank you very much.
Concerns are growing in Cuba in the wake of Nicolas Maduro's capture by U.S. forces. Many Cubans are wondering what American intervention in the region could mean for the island nation. Cuba depends on oil from Venezuela, and President Trump is now threatening to cut off that supply. NBC News reporter Ed Augustin is in Cuba, spoke with people there who are bracing for what comes next.
Cuba's economy, already fragile, facing a new threat. President Trump posting Sunday morning, there will be no more oil or money going to Cuba from Venezuela, and telling the press a deal with the island is imminent.
We're talking to Cuba, and you'll find out pretty soon.
Experts say the island depends on Venezuela for between a quarter and half of its daily energy needs, which means Nicolas Maduro's capture by the United States could push the communist-ruled island to the brink. Over the last 6 years, shortages of food, power and basic supplies have once again become everyday realities in Cuba. This 19-year-old university student tells us she's scared for her future. She worries that if the US can seize one Latin American leader, they can take any.
The blocking of Venezuelan oil shipments, which we're already seeing from the US naval blockade, that could tip Cuba over the edge into an economic crisis, the likes of which we haven't seen since at least the early 1990s.
The Trump administration signaling that by cutting off subsidized oil deliveries from Venezuela, it can bring the Cuban government to its knees.
Yeah, look, if I lived in Havana and I was in the government, I'd be concerned.
Cuba's president, Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermúdez, responding on Sunday, saying in part, "No one dictates what we do," and that the country is, quote, "ready to defend the homeland to the last drop of blood." But softening his tone Monday morning, saying, "We have always been willing to engage in a serious and responsible dialogue." US sanctions on Cuba, which have been in place for decades, have never been fiercer, and economic pain is now set to increase. But on this nationalist, authoritarian island, there's barely any organized opposition, and regime change advocates in Miami have never been able to explain just how a political transition could take place. American involvement in Cuba hasn't always gone as planned. In 1961, John F. Kennedy approved the Bay of Pigs invasion, aimed at toppling Fidel Castro. It failed. More than 100 members of an American-backed brigade were killed. 6 fighter planes were shot down by Cuban forces. It solidified Castro's grip over the island nation. Political dissent over the decades crushed. Some worry that in the long term, the Trump administration's strategy could undercut US national interest.
If you push the country to the brink of economic crisis and beyond, are you creating a failed state 90 miles from US shores?
On the streets here, some pushback on any US intervention, but also indignation and concerns of political escalation. This 63-year-old resident saying, "We have to stand strong. I'm already an older person, but if they give me a rifle, I'll go fight. Another man saying he's scared for his 18-year-old brother, currently in military service. Cuba has been sanctioned for longer than any other country on Earth. But in Mexico, it has an important ally. Still, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum facing pressure from the Trump administration to stop oil shipments to Cuba. Sheinbaum describes them as humanitarian aid.
I would expect to see the Trump administration lean hard on Mexico to further decrease them or stop them completely.
In Cuba, many fear what comes next. Pawns in a geopolitical game. People know that even harder times may be ahead.
Our thanks to Ed Augustin for that report from Cuba.
Coming up on Morning News Now, thousands of nurses on the picket line in New York City.
Can't do our job safely and be here for the patients if we're overworked and the hallways are overcrowded.
Up next, more on the labor dispute that led to the city's biggest nursing strike ever.
And going analog, why more people are ditching their devices and turning to old school hobbies, how that could improve your mental health. Your weekly check-in is next. Welcome back. Here in New York, thousands of nurses are now walking the picket line. It is one of the largest healthcare workers' strikes in city history. Yesterday, roughly 15,000 nurses from 3 different hospital systems walked off the job after union negotiations stalled over the weekend. Nurses are demanding better staffing and workplace safety standards. As NBC New York anchor Gus Rosendale explains, even the new mayor is getting involved.
Nurses at Mount Sinai Hospital in East Harlem among the first on the picket line at 6 a.m.
Mount Sinai, all we're asking for you is to please listen and to hear us out.
They were quickly joined by colleagues at Montefiore Medical Center in the Bronx.
Can't do our job safely and be here for the patients if we're overworked and the hallways are overcrowded.
Nearly 15,000 nurses off the job, one of the largest nurses' strikes in New York City history.
How long do you think this might go for? Do you have any sense?
It's hard to say. It's very hard to say.
Nurses demanding better pay, staffing, and security 3 years after their last strike over similar issues. Hospitals gearing up for this latest labor action in recent weeks, bringing in travel nurses to keep hospitals open. Montefiore saying in part, union leaders continue to double down on their $3.6 billion in reckless demands, including nearly 40% wage increases. And from a Mount Sinai spokesperson, we are ready with 1,400 qualified and specialized nurses and prepared to continue to provide safe patient care for as long as this strike lasts.
Every one of our city's darkest periods, nurses showed up to work.
Top elected leaders joining union officials for a rally at New York Presbyterian Columbia Hospital in Washington Heights.
This could not have come at a worse time due to the fact that we are facing a flu outbreak.
We're ready to fight. The hospital saying we're ready to keep negotiating a fair and reasonable contract that reflects our respect for our nurses and the critical role they play, and also recognizes the challenging realities of today's healthcare environment.
We are not at fault for being outside today. It is their fault.
Our thanks to Gus Rosendale for that report.
Now it is time for our weekly mental health check-in. This week we are looking at how more young adults are avoiding making phone calls or holding conversations and the costs that takes to their mental health.
Plus, we're hearing a lot about toxic masculinity, but a new study has tried to find out how many men are actually toxic.
Joining us now for more on these mental health headlines is Dr. Robbie Ludwig. She's a psychotherapist and the host of the Pivot with Robbie Ludwig podcast. Dr. Robbie, always great to have you with us. Thank you for being here. So we've talked before on this segment about how some members of Gen Z find telephone calls stressful. Now this sort of sounds like maybe it's spreading to face-to-face. Let's unpack this. From your perspective, how is avoiding conversations, whether that be face-to-face or whether that be on the phone, affecting young adults' mental health? And how can they try to break out of that, get more comfortable?
Such a good question. This avoidance can increase their anxiety when they're actually in the presence of other people or actually need to make a phone call or to request and interact for new work life and interact with bosses. And so they're hiding behind their texts and they're not developing the skills. And sometimes to step out of this place, you need to flirt with the awkwardness and practice interacting with people. And the danger is it's also increasing loneliness because some people with this are avoiding in-person interactions, and we don't want to get to that place.
And loneliness impacts your mental health, and we know your physical health as well. All right, let's turn to this study on toxic masculinity. Researchers looked at more than 15,000 men, found that only just over 1 in 10 showed what they would call toxic behavioral signs. And this is interesting. They fall into either hostile or benevolent types. What signs are we talking about? What should we take from this?
Yeah, so this was interesting. Men get a bad rap, but actually when we looked at the science and studies, we found that there wasn't that extremeness. Not all men were masochistic, which included being disagreeable and narcissistic and hostile. This benevolent kind of sexism is something like, oh, women should stay in the house and be barefoot and pregnant. It was more embracing these stereotypes about women that were not accurate. But the good news is that this is not as common as people think. And again, this study was self-reported, but it was still very positive.
Interesting one there. Okay, finally, let's look at this new analog bag trend. It's encouraging people to swap their phones out, not having your devices, but instead bring a purse, bring a bag. It's got things like books, puzzles, knitting. From a mental health perspective, what do you think about this? Swapping one habit for another to really try to minimize that doom scrolling time?
Well, I think this is a fantastic new trend that is super cool, and it's basically helping young kids to stay offline by developing new habits that are really good for the mind and the brain, like reading a book, crossword puzzles, knitting, and it's breaking the habit because sometimes we reach for a phone as a way to deal with micro boredom, and then we're off to the races because our phones can suck us in. So a whole new generation is almost rebelling against this seduction of the phone and saying, we're going to try something else that doesn't keep us connected to our phones 24/7.
I like it.
Don't let your phone seduce you.
I like it too.
I do want to meet the person who's taking a puzzle with them in a bag wherever they go, because that feels like it could be complicated.
My son does that.
What? Like an actual...
Maybe not in a bag, but he loves those crossword puzzles.
Oh, that,
Makes
yes.
him popular at parties.
We saw like an actual physical puzzle, and I'm like, that seems like that might be frustrating.
A physical, crossword puzzles.
Yeah, you set up shop at the coffee table waiting for your doctor or something.
Yes.
Dr. Robbie, thank you very much. Always great to see you.
Coming up, a tech titan team up, Google and Apple joining forces to develop new AI technology.
More on the partnership and what it could signal about the future of tech. You are watching Morning News Now.
We're back now with details about a new artificial intelligence partnership between Apple and Google.
Yeah, in a joint statement yesterday, the two tech giants announced that Apple will use Google's Gemini AI technology to power an upgraded version of Siri that is expected to come out later this year.
For more, let's bring in Joanna Stern. She's the senior personal technology columnist at the Wall Street Journal. Always good to have you with us, Joanna. How big of a deal is it for two tech giants, and I mean giants, to team up and collaborate like this?
I mean, a very big deal in the now age of AI, especially around Apple and Google. But we should also remember, not a huge deal given that Apple and Google have had existing big partnerships. I mean, you have an iPhone, you know that usually that search bar defaults to searching with Google. And so that's a previous partnership that the companies have had. And now this is just taking it into the AI age.
What sorts of new things could this enable Siri to do for us? What is it that is going to be added with this being powered by this company?
Well, if you go back a year or two ago, Apple actually announced that they were going to release an improved AI Siri, a Siri that was going to be able to understand more about what was on your phone and in your apps. And they never did that. They had to delay that because they didn't feel their AI technology could do it as well as it needed to be. In fact, in numerous interviews and one with me, they said it just didn't meet the bar of expectations, and they expected Siri to be better. And so what they're planning to do here is take Google's Gemini technology and put that into Siri and create a more conversational, bot, one that hopefully doesn't always say, I'm going to search the web or I don't understand that.
I mean, it could be argued that Apple maybe hasn't gone as deep into the pool as some other tech firms when it comes to AI. Do you think there were fears that its products were just lagging behind as this moves so quickly?
100%. I mean, it's not. It is absolutely true that Apple is behind in this race. The question for Apple has always been: do you want to incorporate AI through your existing products? So, like Siri, like email, like the Mail app, like all the different apps that they have, which they've done some of that, right? Or do you also want to create a chatbot? What many of the companies like Google or Anthropic or OpenAI have created with their frontier models? Do you want to do that? And here we're really seeing a signaling that Apple is not going to do that in ambitious ways as the other companies. They're going to lean on Google to do those big frontier models.
Joanna, Wall Street rallied as the news got out. We want to show you here. You can see the stock price for Google's parent company, Alphabet, surging. It even pushed over the $4 trillion mark at a few points yesterday. Explain why investors would be so encouraged by this news.
Look, this is the security, first of all, that Google is doing really well. They are in a really power position in AI, many thinking right now that they have actually got the leading models compared to Anthropic and OpenAI. So that's one thing, right? This is just confirmation that Apple also thinks that. And then two, these two companies, Apple and Google, have always had a frenemy relationship. They are competitors. They both sell different types of phones. They have different types of services, but their partnership has been worth so much money and so much of the success of both companies that this is another big marker in that sand for this to go into the future of AI.
Joanna Stern, she's just a friend, not a frenemy to our show. Thank you so much as always.
Thanks. Great to see you. More big tech news. Meta is gearing up for even more staffing cuts.
NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch is here with your Money Minute. Emily, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. That's right. It seems Meta is pulling back on the metaverse and doubling down on AI. According to the New York Times, Meta plans to cut about 10% of workers in its Reality Labs unit, which builds virtual reality headsets and metaverse products. The company is looking to reallocate some of its resources from virtual reality into its wearables and new AI data centers. That says Meta competes with companies like OpenAI and Google. Meta has declined to comment. And a surprise shakeup at one of the world's biggest beer makers. Heineken CEO Dolf van den Brink is stepping down after 6 years as brewers struggle to get consumers to buy more beer amid high costs and falling sales. He leaves the company in May, and Heineken has begun a search for its next leader. Finally, AI is heading back to one of the biggest stages in American TV. According to the Wall Street Journal, OpenAI is expected to air a 60-second ad during the upcoming Super Bowl, marking its second straight appearance as competition for AI users heats up. AI companies are dramatically ramping up marketing, spending hundreds of millions of dollars on TV and digital ads, and OpenAI rivals like Anthropic and Google are gaining ground. Now, we reached out to OpenAI and haven't yet received a response. And guys, if you remember at the end of last year, the vodka company Svedka also announced it's actually going to incorporate AI into its Super Bowl commercials. Yeah. So we'll see if more companies follow suit there.
AI will be making the commercials in a few years. So there you go.
Already, right? Yeah, maybe. Thanks, Emily. Coming up, it's the backdrop of one of Shakespeare's most famous works, and now the site is set to close out the Winter Olympics.
When we come back, we'll take you to fair Verona, where we lay our scene for a tour of the town's biggest attractions. This is Morning News Now.
Welcome back. We are a little less than a month from the kickoff of the Winter Olympics in Italy, as the cities of Milan and Cortina hurry to prepare for the competition. We are ending this hour in Verona, which happens to be the site for the closing ceremony and also the setting for Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet.
Tucked inside a historic tower, you'll find a club of secret Juliets who are hard at work. So what are they doing? NBC Boston's Priscilla Casper shows us how they're paying tribute to one of the Bard's most famous characters.
In fair Verona, where we lay our scene, Romeo and Juliet. We are here on Juliet's balcony, and it attracts millions of people from all over the world each year. Nestled in Verona is Juliet's house, a medieval tower home that holds works of art narrating the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet. As people line up to take photos on Juliet's balcony and also next to her statue, they can communicate with Juliet as they leave love letters here on the wall and in Juliet Juliet's red box.
The secret Juliets, you never know who is. Of course, it's all anonymous. We sign as Juliet.
Those letters end up here at the Juliet Club. Since the 1930s, volunteers from all over the world have responded to every letter.
What do people typically write in these letters?
They're mostly asking for help, like if they're being through a sad moment of their life.
Camila Rusha is from Verona and volunteers at the Juliet's Club.
I think people find her in a way as a sort of a friend they can confide in, they can rely on, ask for help, because she has been through a lot, so probably she knows she has the right answers to the questions.
She says they receive about 8,000 letters a year from around the world. They have kept every letter received and labeled them in these boxes that fill the bookshelves.
I think this is from a little girl, I'm assuming, because she's saying, "Dear Juliet, well, I have this love problem that you probably have heard of before. Well, I actually have two love problems. The first one is I like this guy who doesn't even have any clue that I like him. It's like therapeutic in this sense, like you're helping others, but you're helping yourself as well."
Amanda Miner works in Boston and is in Italy for work. She's a big fan of the movie Letters to Juliet and wanted to volunteer.
What does it mean to be Juliet?
Oh, I feel like it's a lot of pressure. I feel like I want to be poetic and romantic, and I think it's also people are really writing. I mean, the letters I've read, they're writing with so deep emotions and intentions, and they really want advice. Someone could change their lives because of a letter that you write to them.
Dear Juliet, I am 26 and have been in a relationship with my BF for 6 years and anticipate marriage soon.
1992.
Yeah. It was 1992, yes.
From Utah.
Yeah.
From Utah.
Yeah.
Susie from Utah, I hope you have found your love.
I think it is just the romance of it all, and the idea that you could find love at any point in time, and there's so many different types of love you might find in your life, and that Juliet brought all these different people together.
Okay, our thanks to Priscilla Casper for that labor of love there. It is just so cool that that exists.
That is absolutely amazing. And I love how they say Juliet's been through a lot, which I think is the understatement of the year. And a very young person, by the way, with plenty of wisdom to share.
What amazing women, though, that they spend their time volunteering just to give somebody else some advice.
That is a great effort. That'll do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Don't go anywhere, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thank you for being here. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now. Probe pushback, the growing fallout in Washington over the Justice Department's criminal investigation into Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. The top GOP lawmakers now breaking ranks with President Trump and what the future could hold for the nation's central bank. Also this morning, chaos in Minneapolis in the aftermath of that deadly ICE-involved shooting. Violent clashes between protesters and immigration officers, bringing tear gas and pepper spray to city streets. Now, local leaders are taking the Trump administration's crackdown to the courts, or on the brewing legal face-off targeting top federal officials. Plus, a fresh snapshot of America's ongoing fight against inflation. We're going to dig into the latest government numbers and what it could all mean for interest rates. And later in the hour, we're introducing you to a brand new Barbie. She's bringing autism representation into the pop culture spotlight. We're going to break down the physical traits, the clothing, and accessories that designers have included in the hope that more kids will feel seen. Very excited to bring you this conversation and understand how it can make a difference for so many. Let's begin this hour with President Trump facing a rare rebuke from some Republicans over the Justice Department's criminal investigation of Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell.
Yeah, it comes as the president tries to distance himself from the inquiry, telling NBC News in a phone call that he knew nothing about the investigation. NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake has the latest on the fallout. Garrett, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Look, Powell says this investigation is all designed to pressure the Fed into rapidly lowering interest rates, something President Trump and the DOJ say isn't true. The probe has been slammed by Democrats as an abuse of power, and now even many Republicans, including one member of the president's cabinet, are calling it an unwelcome distraction. President Trump facing growing backlash from some members of his own party over the DOJ's criminal inquiry targeting Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, in what Powell calls an effort to pressure him to meet the president's demands to cut interest rates. Key Senate Republicans speaking out against the investigation.
I know Chairman Powell very well. I will be stunned. I will be shocked if he has done anything wrong.
North Carolina's Tom Tillis vowing to block any Trump-Fed nominees.
It's another example of amateur hour as far as I'm concerned.
And in an extraordinary joint statement, every living former Fed chair, several Treasury secretaries, and other top economic officials issuing a rare rebuke of the Trump administration, warning the inquiry threatens the Fed's independence and the U.S. economy, writing in part, it has no place in the United States, whose greatest strength is the rule of law. Even Trump's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has expressed frustration with the investigation to President Trump, according to a source familiar with their conversation, calling it a distraction. House Speaker Mike Johnson backing the administration.
No, the Justice Department is not being weaponized.
The White House denies the president sought an investigation of Powell.
No. As for whether or not Jerome Powell is a criminal, that's an answer the Department of Justice is going to have to find out.
Powell says the Federal Reserve was issued grand jury subpoenas last week, tied to his Senate testimony last June about the Fed's multi-billion-dollar renovation of its D.C. headquarters. The president has repeatedly blasted Powell over the project, which does not draw on taxpayer dollars.
I'd love to fire his ass. He should be fired. Guy's grossly incompetent. And he should be sued.
The U.S. Attorney for D.C., Jeanine Pirro, writing on social media, her office contacted the Fed to discuss cost overruns and his testimony, but, quote, were ignored, necessitating the use of legal process, which is not a threat. And later today, the president is expected to visit a Ford plant and deliver a speech in Detroit, part of a White House effort to refocus on the economy as we begin a midterm election year in which polls have shown voters losing confidence in the president's handling of their pocketbook issues. Savannah, Joe?
All right, Garrett, thank you.
NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos is here to break down how this could all play out in court if we get to that point. So at this point, of course, Powell has not been charged with any crime. This is an investigation. How high is the bar for an indictment and then after that a conviction if the issue we're looking at here is whether he made false statements about this renovation?
Yes, if it is false statements, and of course, as you pointed out, we're far away from any actual criminal charges yet. But false statements are not merely a test of whether someone gave a statement to Congress or to some federal official that was false. There are additional elements. First, the falsity has to be intentional, and then it has to be material. It can't be on an inconsequential issue like, well, it was sunny or it was partly cloudy. Those are not material when it comes to materiality. So it's not as simple as a false statement. It must be a material, intentional, false statement. So if that's what the feds are looking at, that is what they're going to have to demonstrate if that's what they're actually investigating.
So the president's saying he wasn't involved in this. He didn't know about the subpoenas. But as we just played, he has said publicly on several occasions he would like to fire him. How could any of that ultimately impact Powell's defense?
If, and I stress, if there are ever charges, you might see, as you saw with the James Comey and Letitia James indictments, a motion to the effect that this is a selective prosecution, a political prosecution. But the problem with those motions, they almost always fail because all prosecution, in a sense, is selective, especially at the federal level, because the federal government has limited resources and they have to choose where to focus their resources. So it may feel like a political investigation, and maybe it is one. But ultimately, if there's enough probable cause to get to a grand jury indictment, then the case will likely move forward. Although I have to say, in the past year or so, we've seen several examples of a classic case of selective or political prosecution.
We have a separate yet somewhat related issue here, and that's President Trump's bid to fire a federal board governor, Lisa Cook. Folks might remember this was early last year. This is now going to go to the Supreme Court next week. Remind us what's at stake here, what the court is going to be looking into.
So this is really interesting. The governors and, of course, anyone in the Federal Reserve in that position, they are different from other type of officials in the government, and here's why. Congress created them in order to be independent. So the president has appointment power, but the president doesn't have absolute removal power the way he does with other federal officials. And what we've also learned is an unintended consequence of Trump administrations is that you learn a lot about archaic, dusty areas of the Constitution. What we've learned also is that these firings are subject to judicial review. So this issue is going to the Supreme Court, and it's going to flesh out what exactly the power is of the president vis-a-vis this particular federal entity, the Fed.
So it'll be pretty narrowly focused, we think, on this one issue and not sort of broader executive power, right?
Yes, more likely not. And that's the Supreme Court's mandate, to only decide the issues before it narrowly so as not to cut with an axe instead of a scalpel.
Danny, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, in Minneapolis, city and state officials are pushing back against the Trump administration's immigration operations. They are suing top Trump officials over the growing deployment of federal officers there. They're pointing to violent clashes like this, where immigration officers fired tear gas and pepper spray at protesters in the middle of a Minneapolis neighborhood. And now we are learning what may have sparked this face-off. NBC News correspondent Maggie Vespa is on the ground with the latest details. Maggie, good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. Yeah, the man who says his initial jarring encounter with immigration officers quickly devolved into that chaotic scene, which our crew witnessed firsthand and happened just a couple blocks from here. That man this morning speaking out. This as Minnesota city and state officials accuse the Trump administration of, quote, spreading terror and chaos in that lawsuit, with the White House now firing back.
Outside of the car.
This morning, outrage in Minneapolis. Our cameras there as federal officers swarmed by protesters Monday deployed tear gas and pepper spray. This entire neighborhood is shut down. People blowing whistles here, letting everyone in the neighborhood know that federal officers are on the ground.
We are being attacked by the government, and there's no one here to help us.
Neighbors said the confrontation started when an immigration officer rear-ended this car. The driver, Christian Molina, saying they then asked whether he was in the country legally.
Luckily, they didn't hurt me or, they didn't shoot at me, but what if they did?
Molina, who says he is a U.S. citizen and father of 4, told us he wasn't doing anything wrong when the ICE vehicle went after him.
There's no reason for them to just look at you and trying to just chase you. I believe that's not right.
NBC News reached out to DHS about Molina's account. So far, no response. Neighbors who begun organizing to track immigration raids quickly descended on the scene. The clash just blocks from where an ICE officer fatally shot Renee Good last week. The city and state now suing multiple top Trump officials.
The deployment of thousands of armed, masked DHS agents to Minnesota has done our state serious harm. This is, in essence, a federal invasion of the Twin Cities and Minnesota, and it must stop.
The White House blasting Minnesota Democrats, calling the suit a pathetic stunt. DHS saying federal officers in Minneapolis have arrested criminals in the U.S. illegally, some with convictions for violent crimes.
We are surging resources to Minneapolis, and the Trump administration is going to deliver on President Trump's mandate to remove violent illegal aliens from our communities.
This as new video shows federal officers pulling a man out of his car, saying he was impeding law enforcement. Now, circling back to that lawsuit filed by city and state officials here, Minnesota, for what it's worth, not alone. The state of Illinois now also suing the Trump administration, accusing federal immigration agents on the ground of using, quote, unlawful and dangerous tactics. Again, claims that the White House is flatly pushing back against. Savannah.
All right, Maggie, thank you.
The U.S.-based human rights activist news agency now says the number of people killed in the Iran protests has risen to more than 600. On top of that, it says more than 10,000 people have been arrested. Comes as President Trump announces a 25% tariff on imports from countries doing business with Iran as he continues to weigh potential military options. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel joins us with the latest. Richard, good morning.
Good morning. That same human rights group says that Iranian television is now broadcasting what appear to be forced confessions of demonstrators on television, confessing to a variety of crimes, including participating, collaborating with foreign governments, being rioters, being agitators, serious crimes in Iran, potentially crimes that could carry the death penalty. So an escalating situation there. The U.S. Embassy, or the U.S. State Department, I should say, because the U.S. doesn't have an embassy in Iran, but the U.S. State Department is telling Americans to get out of the country. This morning, new videos are emerging from Iran showing the government's violent crackdown on protesters. This man appearing injured on the ground as thousands continue to gather to demand the overthrow of Iran's Islamic government in power since 1979. Another shows families searching for loved ones among body bags. But the disturbing videos are increasingly rare. With the internet already cut by the government, this morning a human rights group tells NBC News state security services are now hunting for the few satellite communication systems activists have been using to smuggle out videos, and are even going house to house to physically cut phone lines and plunge Iran into a total internet darkness.
When you cut landlines, it's also very evident that they are trying to prevent the organization of actors inside the country. And it's not successful. People are still coming to the street in massive numbers.
A U.S. official with direct knowledge of events tells NBC News protests have now spread to every Iranian province, that the crowds remain huge, and that the government appears to be on its heels. The Speaker of Iran's parliament warned if the U.S. attacks, American bases will burn. President Trump has said that would be a big mistake.
If they did that, it'll be met with a very, very powerful force.
In Iran, state media, the only media amid the tightening communications blackout, are telling Iranians the government is in full control and calling the protesters rioters. As pro-government counter-protesters have been mobilized, Iran's president took to the streets to show he's still in charge. As President Trump is weighing military options, it is very unlikely that any military action would look like what the U.S. just did in Venezuela. In Venezuela, the U.S. did this snatch and grab operation, a helicopter raid, relatively successful, very quick. Not the same kind of situation in Iran. Venezuela had really no ability to fight back, to defend itself. It's very close to the United States. Iran, much bigger country, further away, much more complicated country and its political dynamics next to Iraq and Afghanistan. An operation against Iran would likely be far more widespread, targeting the security services, a sustained campaign to weaken the security services and deny their ability to govern and repress the people.
All right. Richard Engel, thank you so much.
Well, this morning we have a major update in the startling murders of an Ohio dentist and his wife. The man accused of killing them is the woman's ex-husband, and yesterday he appeared in court for the first time to face charges as family members revealed new details about their past relationship. NBC News correspondent Erin McLaughlin was inside that Illinois courtroom. She joins us with more. Erin, good morning.
Savannah, good morning. The hearing was short, about 2 minutes. The defendant, Michael McKee, spoke only to say his name. There was a bench reserved for his family members inside the courtroom. That bench was empty. Meanwhile, this morning, family and friends of the victims say they weren't surprised by the news of McKee's arrest.
Michael McKee, who's accused of killing his ex-wife and her husband inside their Ohio home, is facing upgraded charges this morning after making his first court appearance in Illinois. 2 counts of aggravated murder with premeditation for the shooting deaths of Monique and Spencer Tepe.
Your name, sir, for the record? Michael McKee.
Speaking only to say his name, the Chicago-based vascular surgeon stood in the courtroom handcuffed and dressed in a county jail suit. McKee's attorney telling the judge he intends to plead not guilty once he's arraigned in Ohio.
Mr. McKee believes that the most expeditious manner in which he may defend himself against the charges pending in Ohio and to plead not guilty would be to waive his right to an extradition hearing.
Spencer Tepe's brother-in-law, Rob Misley, telling NBC News McKee was an emotionally abusive person when he was with Monique, adding it was obviously a shock that something like this could happen, but we quickly believed McKee had something to do with it. Monique and McKee had no children and divorced in 2017 after less than 2 years of marriage. Court documents cited incompatibility. 3 years later, Monique married Spencer Tepe, sharing this in her vows.
I had quite a journey to get to you. Countless bad bumble dates, wrong relationships, and waterfalls of tears. But it was worth every cringing second because it led me to you.
Police found the couple shot to death. Their 2 young children also inside the house unharmed. McKee was arrested for murder 11 days later, not long after authorities released this video of a person of interest near the crime scene.
This morning, McKee is still being held in the county jail behind me, waiting for transfer to Ohio. It's unclear when that is going to happen. Officials here say that authorities in Ohio need to come and pick him up. Savannah.
All right, Aaron, thank you.
Let's get a check at your very orange-mapped Weather News Now weather.
Angie Lassman is here with these warm temps. Angie, good morning.
Yeah, the orange could only mean one thing, guys. We are continuing with that winter warmth. Good morning to you. We've got temperatures, again, well above where they should be, and they're mainly centered across the middle of the country, but they do extend all the way out to the East Coast. But where you see those darker reds, that's across parts of the Central Plains where we're running way above normal, almost 30 degrees above where we should be, with highs reaching those mid to upper 60s across St. Louis and Wichita today, stretching down to Dallas, even Minneapolis, 43 degrees. I know that's still chilly, but we are supposed to be about 20 degrees cooler than that. So we'll take it today. Chicago hits 50 degrees, Columbus into the upper 40s, and Washington, D.C. lands at 50 degrees on the mark. Big picture look for tomorrow, temperature-wise, we're going to start to see that warmth kind of fading away. So we'll be more typical from Duluth to Sioux Falls, down to Kansas City, Louisville included in this, but still hanging on to some of that warmth across the Rockies and the Northeast. 49 degrees is your high tomorrow in New York City, so still feeling quite balmy for this time of year. Not the case, though, as we get through the end of the work week into the weekend. We'll see a bit of a polar plunge for some locations. Minneapolis goes from 34 on Thursday to just 10 degrees for your high temperature on Saturday. Extra layers will be needed in Detroit on Thursday, too. We'll get into those 30s Friday and Saturday. And New York City flirts with freezing on Friday as well as we round out our work week. Meanwhile, folks across the South, a bit of a different story. So while everybody else is dealing with those warmer than normal temperatures, they're actually a little chilly, 5 to 10 degrees below average. So we've got 30s for Tallahassee, Panama City. We've got 20s in Mobile right now, in Tuscaloosa, 34 degrees in Atlanta. And even this afternoon and into tomorrow afternoon, temperatures are kind of sitting below where they should be. So 60s, 50s is what you can expect. A little better than what they're dealing with across the Great Lakes right now, guys, which is, even though we're mild, a bit of rain and some snow. And we're going to see that next winter storm kind of slide into the Northeast as we get into tomorrow.
Will Florida have to watch out for falling iguanas? Or are we?
Not quite yet.
Not quite
yet. But yes, I know. That's how you really know that it's weather in Florida.
When the iguanas are like.
Yep.
Thank you.
You got it.
Much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including a very special look at Mattel's first ever autistic Barbie. Her uniquely designed features that the toy giant hopes will bring the neurodivergent community into the pop culture conversation.
First, after the break, a changing of the guard, so to speak, aboard the International Space Station. NASA is racing to bring home Crew 11 early because of a medical emergency hundreds of miles above the Earth's surface. We got that one next.
We are back with more on that medical scare aboard the International Space Station. NASA astronaut Mike Fink has handed over command of the space station to a Russian crewmate as Crew 11 prepares to come home early after doctors began monitoring a serious medical concern involving one astronaut.
NASA says the crew member is stable, and this marks the first time the ISS program has ever ended a mission early for medical reasons.
For more on what this early return could mean, we are joined by our friend of the show, former NASA astronaut Mike Massimino, now a mechanical engineering professor at Columbia University, and also the author of this great book on your screen, Moonshot. Mike, it's always great to have you with us. Good morning.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so just to add to that resume, you've logged more than 570 hours in space, which is just incredible. So you know the protocol here. And what's actually going to happen is now that command has been handed off, like I mentioned, NASA is live streaming this return. Walk us through the next 24 hours.
Yeah, so it's going to be pretty busy for them. They did the official handover, but it's kind of like packing up and coming home, right? So they're going to be gathering their personal items, clearing out their sleep quarters, their little bedroom, which is kind of like a closet, clearing that out. Also, some of the science experiments that have to come back. There's a lot of operational stuff, science things that need to be returned to Earth. Preparing the spaceship, making sure that's good, getting their spacesuits ready. Any other handover items that they need to do in this last day. And I think maybe most importantly, from my perspective, your final looks out the window. You know, those last few moments of being there, or floating and looking around and realizing, hopefully they'll come. You know, you always think, well, maybe I'll come back, but you never know. So those last photos, those last memories before they return home.
Soak it all up while you still can. This is, as we said, the first ever medical evacuation. NASA, though, does keep stressing it's not an emergency. Obviously, if it were like an appendicitis, the time would have come and gone by now. Exactly. Right. So what are some of the scenarios that usually justify that we would have to have a situation like this?
I think there's a lot of things that went into this decision. One is they've already been there for 5 months, so they've accomplished a lot. You know, there's another crew almost ready to go up to relieve them. I think that had part of it. But as far as the medical situation goes, we don't know. We may never know exactly. But it could be something like the right diagnostic equipment that you might look into, whatever the issue is on Earth. You know, when something happens, you can do a lot of tests here and go to the hospital. They have a lot of diagnostic equipment up there, but they don't have the same things we have down here on Earth in like a hospital. So maybe it's a lack of that. Maybe it's something to do with being in zero gravity. You know, maybe zero gravity, the body behaves differently. So maybe for whatever this issue is, maybe it's worse in zero gravity and want to get him back home. They also don't maybe not know exactly what it is. So that's kind of, you know, disconcerting there. And then it also is affecting the space station operationally. They had to cancel a spacewalk that they were going to do last week. They had another one planned. So whatever it is starting to impact the operation of the space station. And so let's get those folks home and get another crew up there.
What changes, like day to day, when there's a handoff like this, a new group of people up there?
Well, they're going to go down to a crew of 3, Savannah, right? So that means that a lot of the science that they would normally do with a crew of 7, what they've been doing, that's going to get cut back, right? So it's going to be mainly maintaining the space station, keeping it going. You're going to have 1 American crew member on the U.S. segment. 2 Russians are still going to be up there. They can help out a little bit, but it's going to be sort of a skeleton crew, sort of, where getting what needs to be done. The science objectives will go down, but keeping the space station running and getting ready for the next crew to come up is probably going to be the focus for the next couple weeks.
All right, Mike Massimino, as always, thank you for coming by.
My pleasure.
Turning now to a major AI investment and some growing pushback in Mississippi. Elon Musk's company xAI is spending $20 billion on a new data center, the largest private investment in the state's history. Leaders are touting jobs and tax revenue, but some residents are raising concerns about noise and environmental costs. NBC News Now anchor Gotti Schwartz takes a closer look.
This is literally going to be the home of the most cutting-edge, largest computer in the world.
Elon Musk's artificial intelligence company xAI is investing $20 billion to build a new data center in South Haven, Mississippi. It's the largest private investment in the state's history. The data center is part of a new idea from Musk, a software company where all the software is created by AI. He calls the company MacroHard, a dig at Microsoft, and he's named his new Mississippi facility MacroHarder. And officials seem excited about the new multi-billion-dollar investment.
We know that this development is coveted around the globe. Any city in the world would love to have you here.
The tax revenue generated here as a result of this record-breaking investment will help support vital programs and services.
But a lot of these data centers don't have the cleanest environmental records. A study released earlier this year found AI data centers may be using as much water as humanity drinks from plastic bottles each year. And they might create as much pollution as the city of New York. In Memphis, Tennessee, just a few miles from South Haven, another massive xAI project raised environmental concerns among those who live there.
We are the people for the people, and we deserve to breathe clean air.
And for some of those in South Haven, Mississippi, the noise pollution is already causing problems.
You're worried about the hum that sounds like a jet airplane on a runway.
And the high-pitched noise, which is constant. These temporary units, which should be at 44 or below for the decibels. I can tell you that high-pitched noise carries farther than that.
To put that in perspective, a normal conversation is 60 decibels. NBC Memphis's Michaela Redmond did her own decibel test on the ground, and she found that even 7 minutes away from the construction site, decibels peaked at high 50s. The mayor says those noise levels will not be permanent, writing on Facebook that new quieter turbines will be coming as well as soundproofing construction. We reached out to xAI about both the Memphis facility and the new South Haven facility, and they replied with what appears to be an anti-media auto reply. But these conflicts and possible solutions are part of the collision between small-town quality of life, big money, cutting-edge technology, and the AI revolution.
We appreciate the magnitude of this and all the financial benefits it's going to create for our citizens and all the things it's going to do for the people here.
Gotti Schwartz, NBC News.
Coming up, it is a life-changing medical therapy that could transform the lives of people who are living with sickle cell disease.
But in the year since it was approved by the FDA, why have only a few dozen patients completed the course? That is next on Morning News Now.
We are back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with a visit to the White House for Venezuela's opposition leader.
NBC News senior national political reporter Sahil Kapoor joins us with more on this and other headlines from Washington. Sahil, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah and Joe. We begin today in politics with President Trump saying he will meet with Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado on Thursday at the White House. The visit comes amid questions about who will lead Venezuela after the U.S. operation to capture and remove Nicolas Maduro. Will it be a member of his regime or will it be Machado? Trump himself has cast doubt on Machado, calling her a very nice woman, but one who doesn't have enough respect or support within her country to lead it. Meanwhile, Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren gave a significant speech outlining her vision of a big tent party, one that focuses relentlessly on improving the economic prospects of ordinary people. The former presidential candidate said, quote, "A Democratic Party that worries more about offending big donors than delivering for working people is a party that is doomed to fail in 2026, 2028, and beyond," end quote. She even named names of figures in the party she believes are part of the problem, including the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee, former Senator Kyrsten Sinema, and mega donor Reid Hoffman. After the speech, Warren said Trump called her and they discussed an issue on which he has moved in her direction, namely capping credit card interest rates. And finally, on Capitol Hill, a key House committee is scheduled to mark up legislation to slap limits on stock trading by members of Congress. The bill, called the Stop Insider Trading Act, would prohibit lawmakers from purchasing individual stocks. House GOP leaders have privately indicated they will put the legislation on the floor after the committee votes it out. However, this compromise version doesn't require them to sell stocks they owned prior to becoming members of Congress, which has sparked criticism from a group of Democrats who say it continues to allow lawmakers to act to boost stocks they own and add to their own wealth. And that is where we begin today in politics, guys.
All right. Sahil, thank you.
Well, a year ago, NBC News spoke to a teenager who was one of the first patients to start a gene therapy treatment that can essentially cure sickle cell disease. NBC News correspondent Yamiche Alcindor got an update on his journey and the road ahead.
What is this filmography?
Wedham Manila hates the spotlight. Still, he considers what's about to happen a medical miracle, if it works. So for more than a year, he's let us tag along. Beginning in December of 2024, when a medical team at Children's National Hospital in D.C. removed millions of his bone marrow stem cells and shipped them to a lab.
All right, we are rocking and rolling. You've begun.
They were genetically altered to produce red blood cells less likely to sickle, pile up, and result in excruciating pain.
Today is August 17th, the day before Wedham is admitted into the hospital for his gene therapy process. He's going to be losing his hair, so I look like an alien.
His mother, Sylvia, documenting each step.
Ready for the journey.
As Wedham checked back into Children's in August to begin intensive chemotherapy. It's a process needed to wipe out Wedham's old stem cells and make room in the bone marrow for his new ones. I visited Wedham 2 days after his chemo ended, and as his medical team prepared the new stem cells to be infused back into his bloodstream. Is there a small part of you that's at least excited about this infusion in this moment?
Excited? No, but I hope it works.
For good reason, given what would happen next. As the chemo took hold, first came nausea.
Side effects have started.
Then bleeding sores in his mouth and throat.
How big can you open? And that's it?
Skin peeling all over his body.
You see it on his scalp, all over his scalp.
Eventually, things got so bad he was admitted into the intensive care unit.
Yeah, I wish I could take some of this pain from him, but unfortunately I can't. So all I do is sit with him and hold his hand or rub his back.
But in that dark moment, Wedham's white blood cell count started to rise, a sign things were finally working as planned.
At least today he's able to talk. Wedham, hi. Say hi.
Hi. How are you feeling getting some signs that the procedure worked?
I'm hoping that the pain will also stop with knowing the procedure worked.
How long do you think it'll take before you can say this definitely worked?
As of right now, it has worked. He's not needing transfusion support because his genetically modified bone marrow is making his healthy red blood cells.
For Wedham and his family, that means a new life.
I used to say, we see the light at the end of the tunnel, but now we are in the light.
And how has this impacted Wedham, knowing that he's so close to that light?
Oh my gosh, my son is different now. As a kid, Wedham was always the fun one, dancing and, happy. But complications of sickle cell changed him completely. But in the past few months since we started this process, I think he's back. He is back to us. And it's amazing to watch him.
On October 1st, Wedham exited the hospital in style. By Thanksgiving, he was dancing with his mom again. Yamiche Alcindor, NBC News, Washington.
Oh, my goodness, what an incredible image there. Well, Wedham is still checking in monthly at Children's National as he keeps getting stronger. And while only a few dozen patients have received this gene-edited treatment so far, a new Medicaid expansion across 33 states plus D.C. and Puerto Rico could help many more families access it, which is just really great to see.
Our thanks to you, Mish, for keeping us updated on
Absolutely.
that story.
What a great report there. Well, coming up, a groundbreaking doll debut that's truly opening up the world of Barbie to everyone.
The months of work that designers over at Mattel put into its first ever autistic doll to bring neurodivergent representation into pop culture's spotlight. That is next on Morning News Now. We're back with some breaking economic data.
Yeah, in December, inflation rose by 0.3% month over month and 2.7% year on year.
NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung joins us now to get us a deeper dive into these numbers. So break it down for us and how they compare with previous months. What is this just telling us about the health of our economy?
Yeah, and again, these numbers just coming in, but they're basically right in line with what our economists had expected on a yearly basis. Again, let's talk about that 2.7% figure that you just brought up. That is the pace of price increases between December of this year and December of last year. And you'll notice that if we compare that to the November to November period, which we, of course, got last month, it was also 2.7%. So that means, yes, inflation is basically keeping pace right now, but still a lot of work to be done when you consider that really where we want to be closer to is 2%. That is the Federal Reserve's target on inflation. So again, we've kind of been hovering around that 2.7% figure. Again, that's where we are in December of 2025. You'll notice there's a little bit of a gap here, and that is because we did not get October numbers due to the government shutdown. So again, all things we're watching for as we do continue to watch inflation as affordability remains an issue in America.
Let's go category by category, Brian. What are we seeing as prices change?
Yeah, so if we break out these categories, and you'll notice that usually we are talking about monthly changes. We're going to talk about yearly changes here because, again, we don't have October to November comparisons because of the government shutdown. So we're looking at November to November period, and now for these categories, December to December period. I want to talk about food in a second. Energy prices did go down. That was because oil prices went down as well. If you talk about a yearly pace, it was only 2.3% compared to over 4% in the last measure. Shelter costs, the biggest cost for most Americans, just putting a roof over your head, actually accelerating a little bit to 3.2% on a yearly basis. But food, the reason why we pay attention to this is because between November and December, the Trump administration, as you recall, put a number of exemptions of tariffs on food items to address affordability. But we saw food price inflation accelerate in this month, at least as measured by this report, 3.1%. It was sub 3% in the November period. that's something we're watching as well.
And of course, people are watching what they pay at the grocery store, too, all the time. We know there's still a gap in last year's data from the government shutdown back in October and November. How reliable is this data we're getting now?
Yeah, well, again, when we talk about reliability, those reports that we even got in part prior to this were the best that we could possibly get because, again, the Bureau of Labor Statistics is the most comprehensive that we get. But we still have that hole in the data here. So you can notice that, again, it's going to look kind of nasty for at least the next year or so when we plot all this out because there's just going to be a hole right here. In October, the government was not working. They were not going out and collecting that data, so we just won't have that October number. It won't ever get filled in. It's not an issue when you're talking about yearly measures between December to December. It's actually going to only be an issue next October when we don't have an October 2025 to compare against, but at least for right now, at least we're back on schedule. In fact, this December report actually was originally where we would have been released had it not been for the shutdown. But again, once we get to October, that's going to be a measuring issue.
And Brian, when we have these conversations with you monthly and get these numbers, we often talk about gas prices. And we've had this significant event in that realm, this military action in Venezuela, the U.S. seizing control of those oil reserves. How is that impacting gas prices?
Yeah, well, as me and, of course, my colleague Christine Romans have been talking about on the show ever since the Venezuela operation, yes, that's something that could impact the long term. But at least right now, it's not like there are companies in this moment already drilling in Venezuela, adding to the oil supply. But nonetheless, the overall story here, at least in the short term, is that we have an oversupply of gasoline. This is the chart of average gas prices over the last few years. You can see it obviously peaked during the pandemic when it's crazy to remember an average gallon of gas was over $5. Where we are right now is somewhere closer to the high twos. And again, this is very low compared to basically the last few years that we have seen. You add the Venezuelan oversupply, that could even make prices go down further, but it's going to be years before you get those drillers operating down there.
Right. Brian, thank you so much.
We've got more money news now. Tech titan Alphabet is notching another lucrative milestone on Wall Street.
NBC News business and economy reporter Emily Lorsch has your Money Minute. Emily, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. That's right. Google's parent company has marked an achievement that few companies ever reach. Alphabet hit a $4 trillion market value yesterday, driven by its sharper focus on AI. That includes its multi-year deal with Apple that was announced yesterday, making Google's Gemini the foundation for the next generation AI models at Apple. It's a major turnaround for Alphabet, a positive response to Gemini 3, rapid growth at Google Cloud, and steady ad revenue, putting the company at the front of the AI race and intensifying pressure on OpenAI. And a major leadership move at Facebook's parent company is drawing attention. Meta has named Dina Powell-McCormick as president and vice chair, tasking the former Trump administration advisor and finance executive with helping to steer strategy and oversee multi-billion-dollar investments. The hire deepens the company's political ties. Her husband is Pennsylvania Senator David McCormick. In a social media post, the president calling this appointment a, quote, great choice. And more AI emerging with healthcare. OpenAI has acquired the health tech startup Torch for about $60 million. The company is aiming to unify patient medical data all under OpenAI's roof. The deal comes days after OpenAI launched ChatGPT Health to let users connect medical records and wellness apps. The acquisition also came the same day that rival Anthropic launched a new HIPAA-compliant healthcare feature on its chatbot Claude. So, guys, it seems the competition is really heating up there.
No kidding.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Emily.
Well, in recent years, Mattel has released a series of Barbie dolls designed to increase inclusivity. And yesterday, it released an autistic doll. And the toy has been designed with movements, facial expressions, clothes, and accessories which reflect members of the autistic community.
It joins a collection that already includes Barbies with Down syndrome, prosthetic limbs, hearing aids, and a blind Barbie. In a news release, the toy maker said it hopes its newest doll helps reflect how autistic people experience and process the world around them.
Mattel's global head of dolls. What a fun title is that. Jamie Siegelman joins us now with more on this newest Barbie. Jamie, good morning. Great to have you with us. We understand that this took more than 18 months for y'all to develop. Tell us how you did it, who you did this in partnership with, and what makes her special. What are some of her features?
Yes, good morning. Thank you so much for having me here today to talk about this important launch. This doll was developed in collaboration with the ASAN, the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, and it was designed with intentional details as how many people in the autistic community may experience whether communication. So we really looked at many different features, elbow and wrist articulation, eye gaze, as well as some of the great accessories that you showed here, the fidget spinner, noise-canceling headphones, and a tablet with the AAC app to allow for communication. But yes, very much in collaboration with this organization and also tested through time. But it was about 18 months in development for this important launch.
You touched on it there, but how was this process of creating and developing this Barbie different than other dolls?
Well, we worked, as I said, in close collaboration with ASAN as well as autistic individuals, and had opportunity also for product testing throughout the process.
Can you tell us what Mattel, what you and everybody that you work with and those that you worked in conjunction with to develop this doll hope this does for young people who might need to see themselves reflected in something like a Barbie doll? What's the hope here?
Yes, you know, representation is important, and children's early childhood experiences help shape the possibilities that they see for themselves in the future. So with Autistic Barbie, we really hope to shine a light and also to be able to help children realize that the possibilities are limitless.
Two questions here. What's some of the reaction you're hearing already? And then we want to make sure people know where people can buy this Barbie, where it's available.
Absolutely. Well, the reaction has been so positive. I mean, I've been hearing from so many friends and colleagues who all have children potentially on the autism spectrum, but also others within the industry as well. And we are just so thrilled with the reaction from the public. This doll is available nationwide. Will available at Walmart, Target, and Amazon.
Very cool. Jamie Siegelman, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Again, like I said, what a cool job you have, global head of dolls, and a really important impact that you're having making these dolls like this. Thank you.
Thank you.
In this age of screens and 24/7 internet access, more Americans are looking for ways to disconnect from their digital life. It's a trend happening across the U.S. Instead of streaming the latest pop culture phenomenon, some people are turning to physical media. We're talking about vinyls, books, DVDs, even, yes, VCRs. Drew Peters from our Portland Maine station has more.
For me, it's just like a much more enjoyable, focused way of listening to music, I guess.
Browsing his local record store is something Portland resident Matt Nye says he's been doing more and more recently.
Just the whole ritual of it, I find very almost romantic, or much more enjoyable than just double-clicking a song or an album on my computer.
Owner of Electric Buddhas in Portland, Mike Breton, says Nye is one of dozens of customers he's been seeing recently who've been looking for more traditional media formats.
There's been a huge demand for things you would normally have given away a year or two ago or 5 years ago. People are looking for VCRs. People are looking for even DVD players now.
A demand Breton attributes mainly to the increased prevalence of AI-produced media and digital streaming services that rely on subscription fees rather than paying to own each piece of media.
People having the real thing, not having this intangible, ghostly connection to what makes them happy, but rather have it themselves.
It isn't just record stores seeing a bump in customers, though. Bookstores like Print a Bookstore here in Portland are also seeing an increase.
There is really a movement among people to disconnect. Everything is so digital, we're all online all the time.
A movement co-owner, Josh Christie, says is bringing a variety of young readers to his shop, sparking enough demand for them to start 5 different book clubs this past year.
There is growth in the physical bookstore space, and I think that wouldn't be happening if people weren't really yearning for this physical media.
Among the customers looking to disconnect are Zoe Sabatish and May Peterson,
And then I'll read the covers of a bunch and then choose one.
who say the overwhelming onslaught of constant access to media through our screens is pushing them to spend more time reading physical books.
I think it adds a slowness into my life that I don't get when I'm spending time on a screen.
A trend they say they're seeing grow among their generation, and one both shops hope continues.
Our thanks to Drew Peters for that report. I did have a VCR until it's now in a box.
No,
it's not
did you
no
really
longer
just
hooked
say
up.
Until recently?
Like a year ago, yeah. I still have it. I own the VCR.
Into the wall and
yeah, it's plugged in case you suddenly need to pop in one of those tapes. You never know.
Do you have a button on your phone still? Or no. You fixed that.
We moved along.
Around the same time.
We've moved past the iPhone 7. Don't worry. So if anyone needs advice, if anyone needs advice on how to disconnect, I'm your guy.
Yeah.
All right.
Analog Joe.
We are counting down the days now till the official start of the Winter Olympic Games in Milan Cortina.
When we come back, the Team USA powerhouse who is going for gold in 2 high-stakes ski events that are making their global debut this year. Stay with us. That's up next.
All right, let's end this hour with the countdown to the 2026 Winter Games in Milan Cortina. We are now just 24 days away from the opening ceremony.
This year, 2 ski events that you might not have heard of are making their Olympic debut. They're called moguls and dual moguls. Eli Rosenberg from NBC Boston introduces us to one athlete who hopes to represent Team USA in both events.
When your last name means ice in Italian, maybe this. Flying down the mountain and through the air is your destiny. Maybe an Olympics in Italy is your calling.
I'm Olivia Giacchio, and I'm a freestyle mogul skier.
So how does someone from Connecticut get into moguls?
Completely by accident, I would say.
By accident, because it was young Olivia's parents looking for a break so they could go snowboarding in Killington that led to this Connecticut native's first taste of snow.
Being with their friends, and so that we can keep having our time on the mountain on our own.
Nice job, Olivia. You got it.
And so the ski instructors pointed across the way to Killington Ski Club, and the rest is history. My mom signed us up for a random program. In fact, both of my parents don't know how to ski, so.
That random program, all about the moguls. The demands of the sport, a perfect fit for Giacchio's personality.
I really, really love about training and competing, and it's definitely a sport where you have one shot that's less than 30 seconds to be able to perform your best. I really love the combination of turns, speed, and jumping.
And mastering all 3 has led Giacchio to new heights. An Olympic berth in 2022 in Beijing, and 15 top 3 finishes since the start of the 2023 World Cup circuit. But there have also been setbacks. A broken collarbone and stem cells in her knee to deal with chronic pain.
I really, really learned how to invest in myself and truly believe in myself. So I think that kind of period of my life, one thing's for sure, you definitely never know what to expect, so.
Now, Giacchio is training with no restrictions, healed and ready, as we saw her jump time and time and time again at the Utah Olympic Park in Park City this fall. With a name perfect for this Olympics and the drive to make it more than just a dream.
When I started mogul skiing, I wanted to be an Olympic gold medalist, and so there's some dreams that I've yet to achieve.
Our thanks to Eli Rosenberg for that report. Now, Olivia did get one step closer to qualification with a recent podium finish in Finland. While she grew up skiing in Connecticut, she has skied 68 different mountains, and she hopes to add the slopes of Milan Cortina, specifically Cortina, to that list very soon.
Yeah, you just watch them and you're like, they are superhuman.
No
I
kidding.
don't understand how she flies off that thing. Reminder also, if you feel the same way, you want to get more of this, you can watch full coverage of the 2026 Winter Olympic Games. It's going to start with the opening ceremony, of course. That is on Friday, February 6th, and you'll be able to catch all of that on NBC and on Peacock.
That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though, because the news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.